Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Shrinvatam Swagata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Tadayantasto Ye Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, titled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home, Texts 7 and 8. Text 7. Ekastvameva Bhagavan Idamatma Shaktya Maya Kyayorgunaya Mahadadishesham Sristvanu Purushastadasadguneshu Nani Vadharushu Vibhavasu Vibhasi Ekastvameva Bhagavan Idamatma Shaktya Maya Kyayorgunaya Mahadadishesham Sristvana Purushastadasadguneshu Nani Vadharushu Vibhavasu Vibhasi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency. And after creation, you enter within the material world as the Super Soul. You are the Supreme Person. And through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestations such as just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj realized that the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, acts through his different energies. Not that he becomes void or impersonal and thus becomes all pervading. The Mayavadi philosopher thinks that the Absolute Truth, being spread throughout the cosmic manifestation, has no personal form. But here, Dhruva Maharaj, upon realization of the Vedic conclusion, says, you are spread all over the cosmic manifestation by your energy. This energy is basically spiritual, but because it acts in the material world temporarily, it is called Maya or illusory energy. In other words, for everyone but the devotees, the Lord's energy acts as external energy. Dhruva Maharaj could understand this fact very nicely. And he could understand also that the energy and the energetic are one and the same. The energy cannot be separated from the energetic. The identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the feature of Paramatma or Super Soul is admitted herein. His original spiritual energy enlivens the material energy, and thus the dead body appears to have life force. Voidist philosophers think that under certain material conditions, the symptoms of life occur in the material body. But the fact is that the material body cannot act on its own. Even a machine needs separate energy, electricity, steam, etc. It is stated here in this verse that the material energy acts in varieties of material bodies, just as fire burns differently in the different wood according to the size and quality of the wood. In the case of devotees, the same energy is transformed into spiritual energy. This is possible because the energy is originally spiritual, not material. As it is said, Vishnu Shakti Paraprapta, the original energy inspires a devotee, and thus he engages all his bodily limbs in the service of the Lord. The same energy, as external potency, engages the ordinary non-devotees in material activities for sense enjoyment. We should mark the difference between Maya and Swadhamna. For the devotees, the Swadhamna acts, whereas in the case of non-devotees, the Maya energy acts. Text number 8. Tvadattaya vayune vayunayedamachasta vishvam shukta prabuddha ivanata bhavat prapanna Tasyapavarga sharanam tava padamulam vismartya krita vidha katamartha bandho tvaddattaya vayuna yedamachasta vishwam Shukta prabhuda ivanada bhavat prapanna tasyapavargya sharanam tava padamulam vismaryate kritavidha patamartha bandho. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O my master, Lord Brahma is fully surrendered unto you. In the beginning, you gave him knowledge, and thus he could see and understand the entire universe. Just as a person awakens from sleep and visualizes his immediate duties, you are the only shelter of all persons who desire liberation, and you are the friend of all who are distressed. How, therefore, can a learned person who has perfect knowledge ever forget you? Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be forgotten even for a moment by his surrendered devotees. The devotee understands that the Lord's causeless mercy is beyond his estimation. He cannot know how much he is benefited by the grace of the Lord. The more a devotee engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, the more encouragement is supplied by the energy of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that to those who are constantly engaged in devotional service with love and affection, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives intelligence from within, and thus they make further progress. Being so encouraged, devotee can never forget at any moment the personality of Godhead. He always feels obliged to him for having achieved increased power in devotional service by his grace. Saintly persons like Sanaka, Sanatana, and Lord Brahma were able to see the entire universe by the mercy of the Lord through knowledge of the Lord. The example is given that a person may apparently abstain from sleep all day, but as long as he is not spiritually enlightened, he is actually sleeping. He may sleep at night and perform his duties in the daytime, but as long as he does not come to the platform of working in spiritual enlightenment, he is considered to be always sleeping. A devotee, therefore, never forgets the benefit derived from the Lord. The Lord is addressed here as Arthabandhu, which means friend of the distressed. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, after many births of executing severe austerities in search of knowledge, one comes to the point of real knowledge and becomes wise when one surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mayavadi philosopher who does not surrender unto the Supreme Person is understood to be lacking in real knowledge. The devotee in perfect knowledge cannot forget his obligation to the Lord at any moment. The purport. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvisesha Shinvadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. I humbly seek the blessings of all assembled Vaishnavas and thank you for the opportunity to purify myself by reading and summarizing from Srimad Bhagavatam today. I'll try to summarize based on Srila Prabhupada's purports and a couple of articles I found online from Sachinandan Maharaj. So we're in this chapter 9 titled Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home, and the previous chapter we covered was titled Dhruva Maharaj Leaves Home. So we saw how so far that Dhruva Maharaj was very determined. He went to the forest for instructions of his mother. He met Narada Muni, and Narada Muni, seeing his strong determination, gave him the process of meditation on Vishnu. And then when Dhruva Maharaj started meditating, he was so intense that the demigods could feel the breathlessness, and then they went to Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Vishnu said that it's because of Dhruva's determination, and then he will immediately go to Dhruva and then stop him from this meditation and award him what he wanted. So we see that in the first few verses of this chapter, Lord Vishnu appeared initially in Dhruva Maharaj's heart, and then he immediately disappeared from appearing in the heart. And then when Dhruva Maharaj opened his eyes, he saw Lord Vishnu face to face. And on seeing Lord Vishnu, Dhruva is so he is very ecstatic now because of the darshan of Lord Vishnu, and he is glorifying Lord Vishnu. So this section is also called, like, starting verse number 6, where Dhruva Maharaj starts to glorify the Supreme Lord, is also called like Dhruva Stuti. Stuti basically means glorification, and we see Srimad Bhagavatam is full of stutis, like from different devotees. Like we know that there's Bhishma Stuti, there is Kunti Stuti, there is Dhruva Stuti that we are seeing now, Brahma Stuti. There's so many stutis, all glorifying the Supreme Lord. And also this glorification of the Lord is something that is coming out of today's verse, especially the text 8, where what Srila Prabhupada also says in the end, that the devotee in perfect knowledge cannot forget his obligation to the Lord at any moment. So basically, Prabhupada is saying that devotee, because he has received so much from the Supreme Lord, that he cannot stop glorifying or expressing gratitude to the Supreme Lord. So again, in the end of last chapter, we saw how Dhruva Maharaj could shake all the worlds by his meditation. And this kind of proves that a single pure devotee can definitely influence the whole world. Like, immediately, I think Srila Prabhupada comes to our mind, because as a single person, he spread this Krishna consciousness. He started, and it has grown like wildfire. And that's all because of his pure devotion. And this we can contrast with ordinary people who show some siddhis, but again, they cannot make the world tremble like Srila Prabhupada did. So again, the quality that comes out of this whole section of Dhruva Maharaj's pastime is the determination. And determination is also one of the 64 qualities explained by Rupa Goswami. And Dhruva Maharaj is showcasing that quality. So I think in the verse 8 and 9, or the 7 and 8 today that we saw, there are a couple important points that come out. So firstly, Guru Maharaj is glorifying the position of the Supreme Lord. So in verse 7, he says that basically, you are the Supreme One, you are different, but by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. So Guru Maharaj is explaining how Supreme Personality of Godhead is kind of the creator, and then he also has different energies for the spiritual world and the material world, and depending on how inclined the people are to serve the Supreme Lord. And also Dhruva Maharaj says that you are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature, you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. So Prabhupada makes a few important points that the identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the feature of Paramatma or Super Soul, is admitted here. His original spiritual energy enlivens the material energy, and thus the dead body appears to have life force. So Prabhupada says that in the case of devotees, the same energy is transformed into spiritual energy. And this is possible because energy is originally spiritual, not material. And finally, Prabhupada says that we should mark the difference between Maya and Swadharma. For devotees, the Swadharma acts, whereas in the case of non-devotees, the Maya energy acts. And we always see that sometimes when we perform bhakti, we see that sometimes more problems show up. And this is because if everything is nice, then we will not have the impetus. So if things are good and we think everything is good materially and there is nothing to be worried about, then we think that our endeavor is resulted in all success. So then it would make us remove or ignore the Krishna aspect from our life. So that's why even for when we are practicing bhakti, there's always some type of misery that we is blessed by Krishna in one sense, because that way we can always still connect with Krishna, and we can have something in our prayers for Krishna, and that is also a blessing of Krishna. That's also a sign of mercy of Krishna, because as long as we are in Krishna's shelter, as long as we remember Krishna, then we will never be or we will never fail in this life. I mean, as we hear that even in this very life, we can perfect ourselves. And that's again Krishna's mercy to give us some type of misery so that we can always remember Krishna. And in the next verse, verse number 8, we see that basically Prabhupada talks about the gratitude. And I just found an article from Sachinandan Maharaj who talks about why Krishna is the friend of all the distressed, as mentioned in today's purport. So Maharaj is saying here that Krishna is aware of any service done for him, whether it is recognized as important, like constructing a big temple, which is visited by millions, or whether it goes unnoticed, like the chanting of his names in the secrecy of the early morning hours. He knows it all, and he feels obliged to those who are mindful of him. For example, Krishna was grateful to Draupadi because she once cried, "Hey Govinda," in a helpless condition. Krishna remarked, "Draupadi's call for me has made me indebted to her, and this feeling is gradually increasing in my heart." Srila Prabhupada comments, so to anyone who is constantly engaged in addressing the Lord and his energy, we can imagine how much the Supreme Lord is obliged. It is impossible for the Lord to ever forget such a devotee. It is clearly stated here that anyone who addresses the Lord immediately attracts the attention of the Lord, who always remains obliged to him. Nectar of devotion. And then Maharaj talks about thinking about Krishna's extraordinary gratitude endears him to our hearts and evokes feelings of gratefulness, and this attitude is most beneficial. Gratitude is the condition of the heart that enables spiritual growth to take place, writes Srila Prabhupada. So devotees of Krishna meditate about things they can be grateful for. They avoid thinking about all those things that they do not have, nor all those arrangements that have not worked out. Instead, they focus on what has been given to them, all the opportunities that arrive each day upon their doorsteps, all the relationships that have encouraged them, and last but not least, the human form of life, which offers them a unique opportunity for self-realization. Thus, they cover themselves each new morning in the warming mantle of gratitude and feel empowered. So, express your gratitude. Expressing your gratitude has two benefits. Number one, you become more conscious of what you have. Number two, you connect with the person you feel grateful to. So Maharaj says, my suggestion to you is to compile a mental list each day with items you can be grateful for. To give an example, I am grateful for this day, so full of opportunities to serve and grow. I am grateful to Krishna for giving me the holy names. I am grateful to have such and such people in my life. Then Maharaj says, you will immediately feel how your heart and vision widens. All too often, we do not see the tremendous opportunities we are given. We see, but we do not recognize them as such. We are opportunity blind. That is dangerous. Gratefulness makes us look again into our lives and maybe discover it for the first time. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explained the extent of a devotee's gratitude as follows. Even if a devotee serves Krishna for 1,000 universal creations, he cannot repay the debt he feels towards Krishna for having received the opportunity to serve the Lord's lotus feet. So that's the end of Maharaj's blog. And again, the main point is that just by sincerely even chanting every day in the morning, sincerely reading maybe Srila Prabhupada's books and Shastras, we can express our gratitude. And again, as we saw from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, for having gotten this opportunity in this human body to serve, to be able to serve Krishna, to be connected with Krishna consciousness, to be part of Srila Prabhupada's movement is the greatest gift or greatest mercy we can receive. And we can all we can do is try to repay by doing our sadhana sincerely. With that,